Telegram, Chuck.
No, we got 30 seconds. 10 seconds.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Right.
All right. We are live, sir.
Okay.
How are you? How are you?
I'm ready for some holiday action.
Some holiday action. What's entailed in holiday action?
A long ass drive to Canada.
Yeah, I've got the long ass drive to Georgia on Sunday.
Yeah, well, you'll be home and having some eggnog while I'm still somewhere in upstate New York.
Freezing your ass off.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hoping the dogs don't claw their way through the windshield at some squirrel they saw on the side of the highway. The dogs are making a cameo in today's show, by the way. You'll be surprised.
Oh, awesome. That's great news. All right. Okay. So let's touch a little news first. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Apple introduced this little model called Sharp. Well, it's Sharp Monocular View Synthesis. Essentially what it is, it lets you take a still photo and turn it into a 3D environment. So it's actually pretty cool, and it's actually seems to be work pretty well. I've seen a number of shots like this one on Twitter of people messing about with this. This is one, I guess they took a picture of themselves on a bridge out in the wilderness, and then it kind of turned it into this 3D thing. I
wonder if it needs one of their LiDAR cameras, because you can kind of sort of see this in the live motion pictures that are in your photo album on the new phones.
Yeah.
This motion in it, but you can't go that deep into the pictures.
Yeah, I wish they had more examples here on the website. But
I bet that's just playing with the big blob of data that they shoot with the LiDAR sensor when you take a picture.
Yeah, maybe so. People were raving about it on it says an approach to photorealistic view synthesis from a single image. Given a single photograph, Sharp progresses the parameters of a 3D Gaussian, I don't know how to say that. I've never known how to say that. Representation of the depicted scene. This is done in less than a second on a standard GPU via a single feed forward pass through a neural network. Wow.
New feature in iOS 26.
Yeah, yeah. We've talked about these guys before. This product Skyvern, which is a browser automation tool, they raised $2.7 million. So makes me want to get off my ass and raise some money.
That's not the headless thing we were looking at last week.
No, it's a different one. This is, let me see. I thought I had their GitHub repo open, but maybe I don't. Oh, here it is. This one adapts automatically to changes in pages. So you don't have to worry about it. Page staying the same all the time.
Oh, that's good, because that was a problem with the other. Oh, give me the fourth div inside of the fifth thing with the third paragraph, and somebody put a. I mean, there's sites like LinkedIn that actively randomly generate different structure every time you load the page just to screw with scrapers. Yeah,
Skyvern relies on vision LLMs to learn and interact with websites. So it doesn't use DOM parsing or XPath, anything like that. It just uses a vision LLM.
It's off the screen.
Yep. Yeah. So it's essentially trying to act like a human interacting with it. So it might be and it's open source, so it could be a cool integration for us. I would assume they raise money on the basis of providing a service, SaaS wise, or maybe they would do enterprise integrations.
Yeah, that seems to be the model here. The other headless one we were looking at is, oh, well, you could run this, but it's hard, so use our cloud service.
Exactly. So it's interesting because they provide all the SDKs for all the primary environments, and you can use your own browser, use theirs, etc.
And enter your credit card here.
Exactly. So anyway, it's browser tasks, browser actions, data extraction, validation, for loops, file parsing, sending emails, text prompts, HTTP request block. Anyway, looks like something could be really interesting for us to play around with a bit. I don't want to show that. That's boring. I found this API, and again, it's kind of a centralized thing, but it's not AI first thing, although it does talk about AI on their website. This is a simplified, integrated social media data, basically scraping system. I guess it's not scraping. I guess they have API connections for everything, but every major social media platform, including Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
Well, that's good. The whack-a-mole game we've had to play with trying to get feed data out of Twitter, right?
Yeah. And Twitter charges a fortune, so the average person can't really make use of it. So I guess these guys are paying the whatever it is, 25 or 50 grand a month to Twitter for the API calls, and then they parse it all together for you, so you can. So ranges from a free trial to $399 for access to the data. But it actually was pretty cool because you can do all kinds of twisting and turning of the data and making sure that you can find the latest engagement. You can do sentiment ratings. You can do all the good stuff that we would have liked to have done with it. So yeah, here, analytical dashboard, sentiment analysis, ad intelligence, influencer research, market research, AI, machine learning. Those are just all examples, but I can see this be a very valuable tool. So
yeah, come by the social media streams for us so you can train your LLM on live data.
Exactly. Salesforce launched a framework for LLM prompt optimization. And I haven't given this a, what's that?
Promptomatics.
Promptomatics. Yeah. But it's what I do like about, here's what I like, right? So Salesforce is obviously doing centralized AI. It's running it all through your CRM data, et cetera, and they want to integrate with corporations, and they have a big corporate install base. So I'm not a big fan of that part. But I do like when companies like this release open source products that others can use to build with.
I don't want to jump ahead to our impending fear-mongering segment that we're going to do, but this seems like, hey, let's front run the AI cloud people and we'll get all the prompts and all the results through our stuff so that OpenAI and others aren't the only ones that are scraping all this data out of our corporate customers.
Well, it could, but I mean, if you're running this locally on your own machine, then you're not giving them anything unless.
Yeah, I guess. That's just me being paranoid, I guess.
Well, it pays to be paranoid these days about everything. So, and you brought this to my attention. I hadn't seen it, that ChatGPT has loaded up a simple image editing capability into ChatGPT itself instead of being a separate image editing tool, and it looks like it does a pretty good job. I mean, you've got painting in the image, you've got editing out of specific things. I haven't played with this because I don't use ChatGPT.
I mean, I just saw the announcement yesterday, so it's pretty new.
Yeah, but it does look like it's a pretty good product. I would say that there's probably similar functionalities available in all the major stable diffusion editing applications, including things like Diffusion B for the Mac, which is open source and local. But they're really trying to up their game right now, and they're under a lot of heat and pressure. And as we mentioned last week, they see Apple as their top competitor, which I think is a smart move anyway. Let me see if this one is great that you said too. So I did read through this a bit after you sent it over, and this is a system to remove all of the AI stuff that's forced upon users in Windows 11, Copilot, etc. And why would we do that? We would do that because Microsoft is storing all of your data. They're taking everything you do. And as we mentioned last week, we had a chart that they released from their research team showing how people are using it. Well, the only way for them to know how people are using the AI, what they're looking for, what problems they're trying to solve, what tasks they're trying to do, is because they track everything you do. So having a tool called Remove Windows AI is a great thing because it removes Copilot, it disables recall, or not removes, disables, I should say. Takes Copilot out of Edge, gets rid of the image creator, just basically removes all the AI related services or disables them. So I'm really glad to see a platform like this.
I'll try it on my PC here, the one that sits over here quietly in screensaver mode that I touch once a month.
Yeah. Of course, we don't have to worry about that. Why? Because we use Apple products. But
I do have to build the occasional version of Kilroy over there, but that's it.
Yeah. Otherwise, the only time I deal with it is when my mother has an issue and I have to go do a Google search for it because she doesn't seem to be able to do that.
You're giving her an iPad for Christmas, right?
I should. She still teaches. She's a substitute teacher now. She's a retired teacher, and so she has to have a device. Yeah. Unfortunately.
All right. What else?
That's what I have for the day, sir. Where are we? Oh yeah, just in time. 10 minutes
in time for fear mongering. So let me say why I'm saying that, because it's serendipitous or not, depending on your perspective. This week, I've had 3 separate conversations with 3 different people who are either extremely well connected in the corporate universes of Fortune 100 businesses or otherwise have been around the block several times, all about how they're seeing people in the industry using AI. And in their industry, these are Fortune 100, Fortune 500 businesses, thousands of employees. What are they hiring for? Right? How are they hiring, and what are the people doing after they're hired? And the universal theme, which just frightened the heck out of me that they didn't understand the ramifications, were, oh, these big companies are buying like corporate-wide site licenses for all their employees to have ChatGPT on the desktop. Woohoo, great. Look, we're leading edge. Everybody's AI enabled. And I asked this guy, I said, did you ever wonder if the company has any policies about what you should or shouldn't do with those AIs on your desktop? And he looked at me like, why? And I said, well, suppose that I'm in the CFO's office and my job is to put together the quarterly report for the upcoming shareholder meeting, right? And it's a month out and I'm getting the numbers and I'm putting them together and I'm asking ChatGPT to help me put together the PowerPoint. And I'm asking ChatGPT to write the investor memo, and I'm having ChatGPT write the press release. And I'm doing all these queries, and I'm saying ChatGPT, but you pick your poison of choice, sure, whichever cloud-based service it is. And you're feeding them all those prompts, and they're generating all the results, and you're going to be a hero, and the CFO is going to be happy with your work, and it's going to be a great investor meeting. Except you just put all the data about your company's performance, your product strategy, everything that's been going on into somebody else's cloud. Yep. And I don't care what the privacy policy says. There are some little somebody's up in there that are looking and front running your stock because they know what you're going to report or your annual report. They're selling your data to your competitors so they know what your product strategy is going to be, blah, blah, blah. And the people that are using these inside these businesses have not been trained, have not been told, nor have their bosses or their bosses had a clue, get caught about the type of information leakage that's going on with these things. I mean, after you think about it a little bit, why would you ever use one of these things for anything other than generating goofy pictures and telling yourself a story? Because it's corporate espionage to the nth degree.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's the delusion of these people who are so desperate to have AI in their corporation to think that this is going to be safe and protected for them is just insanity. It's absolute insanity. Front running, somebody could be paid to divulge information from within the corporation. I mean, how many times freaking Coinbase had a problem with support personnel stealing identities of people because a support person in Asia was
Elon doing with Grok. Well, I mean, right. He wants to put, and there's no doubt that whatever you've got as a privacy policy or a terms of service says we own everything, including your retina scan for looking at us on the screen.
Exactly. Well, I mean, look, it's funny because I was talking the other day about Grok signed a deal. Look, we already know Elon has manipulated Grok to his political viewpoints, right? Whatever your political viewpoints are, that should not ever be okay with you. It should not be okay that your artificial intelligence tool that will eventually, when all of compute is AI, has a founder who's controlling the information that you get out of it, the knowledge and education your kids
Murdoch doesn't tell his media companies what to say. It's kind of the same thing once removed, right?
Right, of course, and that's what you're going to get centralized no matter what, And then we've got Sam Alt. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say we have, for media outlets now, there are clearinghouses that do evaluations of media bias, right? And you can go look and see who's middle of the road, who's right, who's left, whatever, and see that and use that to maybe make a decision on where you get your news from. It's going to end up having to be the same way with the AIs, right? They're going to be no more different, more or less like a news network, right? They're going to have their bias. They're going to have the things that they do well or not. And it's funny because I remember, if you'll remember from last week when we were trying to get the stupid little LLM to decide whether to buy or sell on the numbers, I tested some stuff across 4 or 5 different LLMs from 4 or 5 different projects, right? Quinn and Mistral and some stuff from Meta, several other models. And they all suddenly had this same weird failure mode. When you gave them the same prompt and you gave them the same inputs, they all got it wrong the same way. Every time I was comparing two numbers and the first number was the number one, they all got it wrong. So they've all been trained on the same math data, right? They've all used the same training set. They're all screwed up the same way. And imagine when that starts to creep into the generated training data, when they're using synthetic data to train these things. Now they're using wrong synthetic data.
Right.
Looking at these things as sources of knowledge or sources of truth or sources of accurate information is frightening, because if you don't know what the answer is before you ask it, you have no way to know if the answer is right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, I mean, here's my biggest, well, not my biggest, one of my biggest concerns is school districts choosing these to educate our children, right? And that's going to happen. And last week or week before last, El Salvador announced, Elon and President Dictator in El Salvador announced that they are now going to institute Grok to educate all of the children of El Salvador with AI.
You know, I'll tell you, this is interesting. This conversation just came up with my daughter yesterday. She just finished her senior year at VCU, and she's going off into the real world. And somehow we got off on the subject of using AI for schoolwork. And she said, I am so glad that this stuff did not exist when I was in high school, because I learned how to write. I learned how to review my stuff. I learned how to think about whether or not I was communicating clearly. And I didn't just turn around and rely on some tool. And she said, you don't know how many of my peers in this university can't write a document longer than 2 paragraphs if they can't use ChatGPT to do it.
I believe it. I totally believe it. Well, my fear is indoctrination. I just don't want, from my own personal political beliefs, I don't want Elon Musk teaching my children from 5 years old everything they need to know about the world. Just not what I want. And
right, well, you're going to be a homeschooler then, aren't you?
I would have to. Thank God my kids are almost done and I have indoctrinated them properly. So along our theme of fear mongering, one of the things that was, well, you know, we've talked all along about them swiping your data, but here's a thing that people aren't going to realize. And I pointed this out a while ago. I don't think we've done it on the show yet, but imagine if you are a software engineer in an organization and your task was coming up with some comparable product to some competitor, right? And there's all sorts of development shops out there whose job it is just to clone something, right? Sure.
And at least in the US market, you better be doing a clean room implementation of that, because otherwise you're going to have all sorts of copyright infringement and lawsuits and willful infringement damages and all sorts of other things that happen when you rip off somebody else's IP. But here's the problem. Every developer in the world that's using Visual Studio Code now has Copilot hiding in the background, feeding in stuff. I try not to use it, but sometimes it just offers up stuff that's too convenient not to hit the tab key and use. It's like, oh yeah, sure. I was going to type that. You typed it for me. Great. Good job.
Yeah.
But if you're in a clean room scenario and you're asking this thing, I need a routine that does X, Y, or Z, right? Or works with certain API or does a certain thing with a database or some certain function that's a key critical piece of that competitor's software. Because Microsoft owns GitHub and because they fed the entire contents of GitHub into these LLMs when they train them, there's a non-zero chance that when it offers up some code for you, it's offering up an unadulterated snippet of your competitor's source code for you to merge into your product. I just saw this the other day. I asked it a question, and the answer that it gave me and the chunk of code that it gave me was already open in another window on my desktop from a Stack Overflow comment. It was line for line, variable for variable, indentation for indentation, identical to the Stack Overflow answer, and it dropped it in my code. So now you are infringing on IP, whether you know it or not. No clean room implementation is ever going to be clean if you don't ditch the AI
and run it by build it from scratch.
Who's the infringer? Was it OpenAI for giving you the infringing code? Was it Microsoft for giving you the infringing code? Was it you for not knowing that it was infringing? How are you going to know?
Right.
You can't see the original code. So I think that there are all these little subtle gotchas that are coming down the pike that nobody's even really thought about. And if I was an executive in a big corporation right now, I would have 10 people in a room all day, every day, thinking of all the horrible crap that's going to happen because I'm not managing this stuff properly. Because it's going to wreck a lot of people. All right.
Yeah, it is. It is going to wreck a lot of people, and it's going to make it. It's going to do really interesting things in terms of intellectual property, right? I think the battle. I think that this idea of protecting everything is probably going to end up falling by the wayside, is at least digital things, because it's going to, and that could include everything
Well,
from
and you
code to
can
art.
see the writing on the wall has kind of been there for, at least in the software world, with things like the Alice decision for patents, right? If all you're doing with the software is automating something that you can already do, that's not a patentable thing.
Right. Exactly.
And so yeah, there's a copyright issue, but I didn't copy out of your original source code, and I didn't willfully infringe. So too bad, so sad.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You should have
Exactly.
hidden your source code away and not let it be visible to the AIs that scraped it.
Yeah.
Right? One more quick tidbit, and then I have a really cool toy that I want to show you that we did in Kilroy over the last 24 hours. I had a discussion last night, and I don't want to name names because I don't know how confidential this was, but a big networking vendor is rolling out this product, which, you know, we're champions of local LLMs doing all the compute on
own your AI, or it will own
right.
you. Yeah.
And these guys are rolling out a product which is, well, they'll deliver to your place of business a rack full of AI ready machines, all networked together so that you have a cloud looking service on-prem that looks like a Chat GPT or a Claude or a whatever, right? And so their argument is, oh yeah, well, we'll just keep all our data in-house, and you will, except now you've got the scalability issue. If you're a Fortune 100 company and you want to replace an OpenAI subscription with a rack of your own gear, well, okay, go stand up the AWS sized data center that you need to support your 15,000 worldwide employees doing this all day, every day, because that's not going to be enough.
Exactly.
And he was all excited about this product because, oh, it's going to be killer. We're you know, sticking it to the guys who are in centralized cloud mode. And I said, shit, let me tell you what we're doing. You could put our software on every PC, on every desktop, in every office in your organization, and not just have 100 machines in a rack for everybody to use. You could have 10,000 machines all swarmed together. Maybe they can't all run LLMs, but a bunch of them can. And when they're idle, they can help their buddies. And so now you've got a swarm of 5,000 AI boxes instead of 100. And oh yeah, it's just a double clickable app.
Exactly. And it's easy to access, easy to utilize. I mean, I think later on we'll add some functionality for combining GPU capabilities, because there already exist on the market. There are open source products that allow you to combine GPU resources from multiple machines together to help an LLM. There's unending possibilities, and it wipes out the need for all this data center crap. So I definitely think it's
So let me
a
show you
powerful model for people to utilize our stuff.
Let me show you my cool toy that I made.
Yeah, I am so excited about this, but also a little fucking overwhelmed by it.
Well, the thing is, this is something that's been in Kilroy for a long, long time, and it was just because of a comment you made a few days ago about, well, why can't we put web pages and have a website in our cloud swarms? And it's like, well, there's no reason why we can't. Let's do it. So today, live on the air, we're introducing, ta-da, mini apps.
Apologies to Farcaster and Telegram.
Right. Well, I mean, Farcaster and Telegram and Discord and a bunch of these other social platforms have had this idea of mini apps for a while. You know, it's a little self-contained piece of HTML and code and buttons and logic and whatever that can get shipped around to the clients and run to do game things, crypto transaction things, fill in the blank form things, polls and messages and whatever. And this certainly doesn't look like one of those on the screen, but I just wanted to show this first, and then I'm going to go run the mini app, and then we'll come back and look at what this does. But great. If you're familiar with the innards of a lot of different web backend applications, you have a router in there that handles requests from the front end. And look, we have a router here for page 1, page 2, page 3. And in some cases, they're returning static data. In some cases, they're going off to an AI swarm to compute the page. And so what we're able to do now with this little tweak, this little conceptual tweak in Kilroy, is have embedded little miniature HTML sites inside of Kilroy widgets, inside the dashboard, that act just like everything else that you've ever played with on the web. So I'm going to start this up, and it's not going to be exciting because I just did this yesterday in about 45 minutes. But,
yeah, we can walk through some ideas.
Right. So this is a little mini app. It starts out, oh, Merry Christmas, 'twas the night before Christmas, right? And it's got a couple of links in it. Now, this is the interesting thing, because this page is being served through our swarm from a pipeline. These links go back into the swarm to say to the pipeline, go find me the content that's related to this message, right? Everything is going in and out of the swarm basically as plain text. These are not HTTP requests going out over the internet. It's not the browser fetching the code. It's the agents in the pipeline fetching the page data and showing it to you in the viewer here. That might sound weird. I'll show you in a minute how it works. But if we go off to page 2, and like you would in a normal little website or mini app, ta-da, here's page 2. And look,
you got the kids in there. I love it.
Making their holiday appearance. This was a Stable Diffusion image, by the way.
These are Chuck dogs.
And so it's all self-contained. It's all in here. We haven't messed with any of the other Kilroy apps. All the other stuff that's running is still running, but this is this own little universe in here that's being served up by this pipeline called test links. If I go back to the first page, we're going to do something that's going to be painfully slow. So, we'll play the hold music here. I'm going to ask, one of the links is, will it snow for Christmas? Great. Well, what that's going to do is actually go fire up Llama 3. And while it grinds itself to life and loads up Llama 3, it's going out to the network, pulling in the weather data that we've seen it use before, sending that JSON blob over to the LLM. The LLM is turning that into a HTML table and a nice little weather app.
It's great.
Right. And that was all done inside of a Kilroy pipeline. It didn't require any code. It didn't require any special ability to write HTML or do anything. And you've got a little live website that you can navigate around between and do things.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to think through this, right? So this does a couple of things. First of all, at a very simple level, it gives a nice little HTML-based interface to pipeline swarms, agents, et cetera, right? It allows you to easily create a UI to access swarms. And the cool thing is it could be multiple swarms. This could be a dashboard that accesses all the things you're keeping track of all day. And you could have data feeding into the dashboard. You could expand the size of this frame that is holding the HTML. It can allow you to interact with. And,
by itself.
Yep. It can allow you to interact with and execute different swarms and pull different swarms into things that you're working on. This opens the door to even more access. And here's one of the things that we have grappled with building Kilroy. We have all these great little swarms and apps that we create, but we end up with, like the little box to the right of the white screen and the little box to the left of the right screen, we often end up with dozens of these little boxes on our screen. Sometimes that's great because it operates as a dashboard, and that's how some people would prefer to operate. But with this kind of an interface, we can now eliminate a lot of those little boxes and allow almost all of the functionality that somebody might be utilizing different agents and swarms for all to happen within HTML.
I think the major, pardon the trite phrasing, the major paradigm shift here is that clicking on these things is not telling the browser to go to this URL. Like
correct.
100% of all the other websites. Clicking on this thing is actually pushing a message into the swarm for all the other agents to see. When I click this, it actually pushes a message in. I'll do it on this one because you'll see it up there for a minute. It pushes a message into the swarm that is /page3. And you can see it happen right here. That's the message that went into the swarm. And if you look over here at the logic, there's a handler for seeing a message coming in that matches the regular expression /page3. Right. And when it gets that, it says, oh, let me just go over here to the weather swarm and kick things off. It's going to send out a static message that's actually my zip code, right? 20176. And it sends that zip code down here, which goes off to our get weather tool, which takes a plain text zip code as an argument. It goes out and gets a JSON blob of data that's the weather, and it sends it back into the swarm. This weather agent has a cool prompt, right? It says you're going to receive some JSON that contains weather data, convert it to HTML, also put a small image 64 by 64 using the URL from in the JSON, right? Follow that HTML with a table that summarizes the current conditions and don't output anything else. So it does that and jams it back into the swarm. This little guy's job is to listen for the finished weather report. It wraps it with a little bit of other HTML here, a blank line, a heading that says, hey, this is the Leesburg weather report, and the link that you can click to go back to page 1. And if you look at the text that it's in here, this is the magic juju of what we're doing. Kilroy exposes one little function in JavaScript back here in this chat window that anybody can call. And if you say send one message from Kilroy and send the text of the message, it puts it back into the swarm that it came from. So you can have pre-canned queries that go into the LLM. You can have commands like this that are structured to do navigation and state change in the pipeline, whatever you can imagine. So it's not just a URL. It's a call potentially to a back-end service. I mean, this is the equivalent of a web service that goes out and makes an API request for weather data and then somehow renders it out as an HTML table. But we did it all with a single prompt to the LLM.
Yeah.
So now I'm writing back-end web service code with 3 sentences in an LLM.
Yeah, it's amazing. And not only so this is an example of, you see here on this diagram 3 swarms, right? Well, you could chain multiple swarms together and have them be the next step and the next step and the next step that you're clicking through to. So maybe you used that social data API that we talked about earlier, right? And it pulled down the highest engagement tweets, and maybe we create a methodology to actually pile into the accounts of those tweets, right? Or pull in other data related to it, or find data about that person that tweeted
well,
it.
And
it's unending.
It may be that this swarm is on my machine and it handles some static pages, but I've got a special page that goes off to your machine where you have a swarm that generates pages for me to look at. And the same way that I can navigate from website to website with links and cross links and whatnot between regular websites, you'll be able to navigate around between Kilroy installations and people's agent swarms the same way.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and what we didn't even really get into was the reason I made that comment. Well, I think it was the reason I'm going to remember it that way now. Was that we were talking about the fact that built into Kilroy is everything you need to create your own personal social media network that's completely peer-to-peer, right? And so how do we have profiles, or how do we have feeds of your posts that other people can tap into or subscribe to and get, right? And so that was kind of the origin of, hey, how do we make this happen? How do we create this? But now think about it, you can now utilize this functionality as a person that's doing a social feed publicly or privately in Kilroy to provide functionality to people, to expose access to apps and agents that you've built, to share information with them. So it opens up so many possibilities to have a live stream like this coming into it, right?
Sure.
So it really, really,
you're excited, Brad.
I am so excited. It is just ridiculous. I just need to abandon everything else in my life and just.
Well, so we've run out of our 30 minutes.
Well done though, man. I'm excited we have this now. It's great.
We'll leave Maple and Coconut up to take us out.
But beautiful. I'm clicking the end stream button now. Hope everybody has a great day. If you're interested in playing around with, building with, integrating with, whatever for Kilroy, we want to hear from you. B05 Crypto on Telegram, B05 Crypto on Twitter. Chuck is C-Shotton on all social networks, and I am B05 on Farcaster. We'd love to hear from you. DMs are open. Please